What's up YouTube? My name is Anderson and welcome to my channel and poker vlog. I want to start off by giving a shout out to some of the other vloggers out there like Andrew Locke, Brad Owen, Mariano. Making this vlog has made me really appreciate how much hard work and time they put into their content creation, because it definitely isn't easy. And just wanted to let you guys know that the purpose of this channel is just to show some interesting hands that I play, and also from time to time get feedback on some maybe donkey plays that I make. I'm based out of San Francisco, so for you locals, you already know that I'm going to be posting a bunch of hands from Lucky Chances in Colma. And one more thing before we jump into the hands, I haven't done much video editing or recording at the poker table before this, so you'll have to bear with me. There's going to be some crappy camera angles and bad video editing, so bear with me and hopefully it just gets better over time.
Two hours later.
In the first interesting hand, I have King Queen of Hearts in middle position. I raised to $55 over 2 limpers. The straddle completes and so do the limpers. We go 4 ways to a flop of 10 of hearts, 7 of clubs, 5 of clubs. This flop should hit the straddlers and limpers ranges, while I flop the nothing burger. I play my hand a little face up and check back. The turn is an 8 of hearts, giving me a backdoor flush draw. Now the straddle leads for 135, and the player next to act calls for 135. The second limper folds, and at this point, the pot is around 490. Since I'm calling 135 to win 490, I'm getting a little worse than 4 to 1 on a direct call. Not quite the right price to hit my flush outs, assuming they're all clean. However, there are some implied odds to play for, as the straddle has around $700 behind, and the other player has a little less than $400. I call, figuring at least one of these players will pay me off if I hit. The river is a beautiful 5 of hearts, giving me the second nut flush. This also pairs the board, however, so I have to be cautious of some hands that made full houses, like 10-5 and 7-5. I'm not too worried about any sets because I think most players would have raised that on the flop. The straddle doesn't seem to like the river, so he checks. Next to act goes all in for his remaining $371 into a pot of about $625. At this point, I'm thinking about whether to call or raise. I have a pretty strong hand now, but not quite strong enough to raise for value. If I raise, I suspect the straddler, if he happened to be trapping, to call with hands like the nut flush and the aforementioned full houses. After about a minute or so, I decide to make the flat call. The straddler sighs, and he mucks 10-7 of diamonds face up, while the player that shipped it shows ace-7 of spades for, I guess, second pair? Anyways, I'm happy to luck box my first pot of the day. About 20 minutes pass before I pick up pocket 7s in early position. The $10 kill is on in this hand, so I raise to $35. There's a younger player next to me who calls for $35. The small blind, who was the same player who mucked 10-7 of diamonds in the previous hand, 3-bets to 115. It folds back around to me, and normally if I were out of position, I would lean towards folding, just because it'd be hard to extract value even if I do smash the flop. Both players have around $700, and I cover both. The odds of flopping a set are 7.5 to 1. Since I need to call $80 more, my opponent needs to have at least $600, and I have to have a reasonably sure chance I can stack him to make sure the call is profitable. To make the equation a little sweeter, I know the player next to me won't re-raise if I flat, making my implied odds even better. I call, and the cold caller calls as well. We go 3 ways to a flop of 9-7-5 2 clubs. The straddle bets $140. At this point, all I'm thinking about is Vegas and the fucking Mirage.
I want him to think that I'm pondering a call, but all I'm really thinking about is Vegas and the fucking Mirage.
I end up flat calling for a couple of reasons, even though the board is pretty dynamic. I want to possibly bring in the cold caller to my left, and the stack to pot ratio is just around 2. If I raise, I don't suspect I'm going to scare away many flush draws, if that's what my opponents are indeed holding. I also don't want to raise any alarm bells. The player next to act folds. The turn is a bad one. It's a deuce of clubs, bringing the front door flush and heavily downgrading my hand. The straddler doesn't seem to like that card either, and he checks. I'm weighing my options. He most likely doesn't have a club because he would have bet the turn. There's also a small chance he could be trapping with a flush, but a capped one pair hand is more likely. After some deliberation, I slide in $600 to signify an all-in. He tanks for 2 minutes before ultimately calling. We go to a run out, and the river is an ugly 8 of clubs. I show my 7-7, which holds up, and he announces he had an overpair with no club. So it's nice to extract max value and still manage to win on a 4 flush board. The next few hands I unfortunately don't get on camera, so you have to settle for my face instead. The run good continues when I have around 2k in my stack and I get dealt pocket kings in middle position. I open for $55 in a kill pot over a limper. This particular player is very action heavy. I played several sessions with this guy and I've seen him do some funny things where he jams it in with a marginal top pair or even a second pair. So when the flop comes out, Jack 4-5 2 clubs, I'm happy to start piling more money in. I bet $60, and looking back, I actually wouldn't mind sizing up a little more, something along the lines of $80 or $100, because I know this guy is willing to call down even later. Now the turn is where it gets interesting. The turn is a 6 of spades, putting 2 flush draws on the board, and also giving 7-8 to straight. However, I still want to go for value because I know this guy has a really wide range. I bet 175, and now he decides to check raise me to $500. Remember when I said that range was wide? Well, that wide range includes hands like 4-5, 6-5, 6-4, even of the unsuited varieties. I'm never folding here, but I also want to proceed with some caution, so I just put in the flat call. When the river comes a 6 of diamonds, I'm feeling pretty good because if he did have a hand like 5-4, now I counterfeited him and I have the better hand. At this point, he bets very small, $200 into a pot of around $1,200. And in the moment, I just didn't even think about going all in, so I just tossed in the call. So he turns over king-jack offsuit, and I take it down with 2 kings. In this next spot, I get a little frisky with 6-5 of diamonds. Under the gun opens for $30, and I 3-bet to $100. Looking back, I think all 3 options of folding, calling, or raising are reasonable. In tougher lineups, folding probably makes more sense because players in position will start to bet relentlessly against you. Calling seems reasonable too because this hand probably plays pretty well multi-way. And the last option, which is the one I went for, raising, seems like the best, especially at lower stakes games where players probably won't punish your 3 bets enough and will also let you over-realize your equity. The original raiser defends, and the flop comes queen, 10, 2 diamonds, giving me a flush draw. However, this board should hit my opponent's opening range pretty strong, and my hand doesn't block any of the hands that contain a queen, such as king, queen, ace, queen, jack, so I decided to check this one back. The turn comes a jack of diamonds, giving me immediate help. I could reasonably have had ace, king that checked back the flop, that now is a straight, and in this particular instance, now I have a flush. He checks, and I bet $135, to which he swiftly calls. The river is a complete blank. It's a 4 of spades. And now it's just a matter of how much to bet. However, it doesn't even come to that, as the under the gun opener leads out for $200. At this point, I'm thinking he has some sort of queen X holding. And I'm only really worried about queen jack and possibly pocket 10s or pocket jacks if he decided to slow play those hands. While those are hands that beat me, they're not enough to make me slow down, so I decided to go for it, play for all of it, and I move in for his remaining $360. Unfortunately, he quickly folds, and he would later tell me he had a queen, so a good laydown by him. In the last interesting hand, some winner's tilt is settling in, and I decide to limp pocket deuces from the button. The small blind completes, but a young, aggressive player in the big blind re-raises me to $70. At this point, I'm just trying to set mine, so I flat call, but the small blind folds. The flop comes 9-6 for 2 clubs, and he decides to check it back, and I do the same. The turn is the queen of spades, and now he decides to bet $50. I'm feeling kind of sticky, and even though my hand isn't that great, I decide to call and see what he does on a river. The river is a 6 of diamonds, so all in all a good card. At this point, he decides to overbet 250, the pot. It's a pretty tough spot because on one hand, he has all the strong hands while I don't have any of them. He could have top pair like ace queen, king queen, and he has all the over pairs like pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, and pocket jacks if he decided to be tricky with them. On the other hand, my range is capped. But he could also easily be bluffing because both the spade and club draws brick out, and betting this big puts me in a tough spot with hands like pocket deuces, pocket threes, pocket fives, etc. So after thinking about it for a while, I decide I'm not going to be hero this time, and I lay down the ducks. To close things out, the moral of the story here is don't limp and overcall too much because aggressive players will start to pick up on that and attack your capped range, meaning they'll know you can't have all the strong hands while they can, which puts you in a tough spot and makes you have to call down a little lighter than you normally would have to. All right, that's it for the hand, guys. As you can see, there weren't many tough spots today except for that pocket deuces hand, which I could probably have gone away from. Let me know below if you think I should have called there or folded earlier. And overall summary today was being patient, hitting backdoor flushes, flopping sets, getting dealt premiums. It was a great session overall. We bought in for 1100 and cashed out for 39.23. So my biggest winning 3-5 session yet. And just looking to continue this upswing. Until next time, guys, best of luck at the tables.